a lot of people were coming to you for not only merch, but for work.
Yep.
They wanted to understand how you presented your brand and where the vision came from and how you were able to translate the words that come out of your mouth with the things that don't speak. So we had celebrated 10 years of UxU. That's a decade. In a decade, you probably got your 10,000 hours in.
Thanks.
So I think my first question for you is, looking back over 10 years, what does the word change mean to you?
Necessary.
Go on. Give me some more.
Constant growth. Self-awareness. Clarity.
Okay.
Entrepreneurship. It's a never-ending game.
Okay.
It's just like, as soon as we think we're getting real deep into something, as soon as we feel like we're a master at something, we have a conversation with somebody or watch the YouTube video. It's like, oh damn, we were just scratching the surface. There's a whole other world to this.
Right.
So it's been a lot of that, a lot of, as Gary Vee would say, tasting.
Yeah. So I spent some time over the last couple of days rewatching several times the 5-year interview. And I think in the last 5 years, I've witnessed a lot of change with the UxU brand. So let's do a brief overview of the first 5, and then let's really deep dive into the second 5. Okay. So the first 5 was a brand started in the fashion realm. 2009, which is so, and the good man Ray.
Yes, sir. Ray Slice.
Yeah. A man of many names, indeed. And you were a clothing brand, right?
Originally, our clothing brand was called Nerds with Swag. Because when we started the clothing brand, Ray came to me with the idea because he saw what I was doing with Photoshop. I was starting to already take pictures with my MacBook. Didn't have a camera yet.
Right.
And I was learning how to do clone pictures. I was doing all these different elaborate fun pictures back in the day. He saw my skills level with that. It was like, yo, I've been thinking about starting this little fashion thing. We were always a big fan of streetwear, all the different brands. We were like, oh, let's do our own thing. So our idea from the beginning was always we wanted to exude our own personalities through the clothing. So for that, we felt we were nerds with swag. We like a lot of things that people call nerdy, like Star Wars or other things like that. But we always felt like we went about it with a little more swagger. We always we dress well, we talk smooth. So it's like, yeah, we kind of nerdy, but we still got our own swag with it. We were going about that for probably about a month, 2 months or so. We were making shirts with the heat transfer, selling them in school. Then I got an email slapped with a cease and desist from a blog out in California that was called Nerd with Swag. And they had been going on for 5 years. So that was
something right though. They was hearing about you in Cali.
Obviously. Yeah. Making a little bit of noise online.
Sound like a lot of bit of noise.
Right. So that was kind of like a downtrodden moment, already. As soon as we start feeling like we built up some traction, now it's oh man, now we got to stop. So kind of had a conversation that day. It was like, well, do we want to just end it here, cut our losses, or do we want to rebuild something out of it? So my parents encouraged us to really go about it, but if we were going to do it, let's do it for real. Let's get the LLC. They'll help us walk us through it, whatever the steps that we need. And we decided, all right, from there, let's take it a little deeper and let's choose a name that is truly going to be us. As soon as people hear it, they be like, oh yeah, that's them. And at that time, we felt it was unique and being uncontemporary. Being unique is being your own person without falling into the fads and trends of society. And being uncontemporary is there's nothing modern. Everything is a remix. We are all taking the things that the leaders and innovators did before us and revamping it to what we're doing today. So with that, it encompassed everything. We were the leaders of the new school, but followers of the old. We pay attention to what came before us, pay a homage, but we're still going to put our twist on it to communicate with the people that we're communicating with today. So shortly after we started the brand, because we were 17 and didn't have no money, so we were making clothes and got to a point where hey, we got to put this online, but we ain't had no money. I had no money to pay no photographer. I had no money to pay a web designer. I had none of that. I didn't even know what I needed back then, but I was like, screw it, we're gonna learn how to do it.
Right.
So the first very photo shoot we did, we borrowed Ray's dad's Nikon. And I didn't know what I was doing, but I just had it in my hand, and for some reason, it just something felt right. And then, like, them pictures were terrible. They were blurry. They were dark. They were underexposed. But I was like, something just felt right with it in the hand. So that next December, I got my first camera, a Canon G11. It's a tiny little point and shoot. I'm gonna have Dorothy can you put it up in the corner? Yeah, little point and shoot. Because what I wanted to do was like I want to hold myself back so I can learn the attributes of photography myself. I don't want to go to class or whatever else. And I was so bombarded by, like, I was really big into the Hundreds and their blog. And I was looking at what Bobby Hundreds was shooting with. And at that time, it was like a 5D Mark II. Maybe
I didn't know he shot this.
Yeah, he did all of this stuff. That's one of my big inspirations in the beginning. And now, at this point, I got my 5D Mark II. But it took me a while to get there. I wanted to hinder myself so I can learn the fundamentals of photography, like how to change those different settings. What do they do? How can I manipulate it so I can get the camera to see what I want to see? Like I just told one of our new shooters, Malik, tonight, like, don't trust that camera on automatic. You tell the camera what to do because you know more than that. The camera just is going by numbers. Like, you have eyes. Look, you adjust it. You tell it what to do. And that's just how I learned. It wasn't about what the technically correct way to operate the camera. It was what my eyes saw and translating that from my brain to that screen. And that's what I loved about it. And that's why I love how my mentor Snoop broke it down. He was like, we are not photographers. We are painters with light. That's all you're doing with that camera. You're adjusting how open is that aperture inside of that lens and how long does that shutter stay open to capture the scene that's in front of it. So you're blasting that sensor with all that light in a particular way that you control the light. Like I control the ones in this room in a very specific way so it goes on that sensor. It's painting. It all starts with a black canvas. How I control the scene and how I control that camera is what I'm going to get on my canvas. It's just in an instant. And that's just what I changed my whole perspective on it because that's exactly how I shot. It's not, I don't use a light meter that tells me what, based upon this flash, this is what you should set your camera toward. It's like, nah, it just doesn't look right. Yeah. Do I got the right paint? Do I got the right subject?
Right. So you're talking about painting with photography and light, but at this juncture in the journey, the brand is still a fashion brand.
Indeed.
So why is that so important?
Because that's what birthed it. The photography didn't start until the brand was there, and then the need was there. So within that need, a passion was found, and a natural skill set was found.
Okay.
And it was probably about like a year after we started the brand is when I went to college. And when I went down there, basically I didn't want a regular job. I wanted to be able to hustle, and the camera was my way to do that. So once I got to school, it was almost as if the clothing line itself kind of went on the back burner a little bit. And that's when the photographer side kind of took over. And I was learning that craft and working in a lot of different industries. So we were always making clothing in the, like during the whole stage, but the focus, I guess, was never really on clothes fully. But it's just, I think it was a lack of understanding and a lack of clarity that I didn't see it yet. Right. It was really just doing what was needed in the moment and just having fun with the opportunities. Because once I got to Greensboro, it was like, it was wild.
And college was what year you start college?
I graduated 2010, so 2010 to 2014, summer of 2014.
Okay. So I think, when did I meet you? I met you on your 21st.
My 21st birthday.
Right, but the brand was a brand. Yeah, there was clothes, there was all of that. And I was just getting introduced to everything. And then I remember you did a collab with the artist Cornelius.
Yeah.
That we featured on.
That was right at the end of the last interview. That was probably right about 5 years ago.
Yeah, no, we featured him as, we used to do a series called Instagrammers We Did. And we featured him just because his work is
dope, bro. He's doing a lot of animations. Shout out to him. Like, he's doing a lot of dope animation work now. That's another artist that is dope to just see
watch
grow
over the years.
Yeah.
So again, that was so that I guess that kind of wraps up
2013.
Yeah, the first 5, right?
Yeah, that Cornelius one was like probably the last one where we were really full force trying to make the clothing work. Then it got to a point where we were like, all right, my whole thesis starting out was I wanted to run it like a big brand. So it's like I don't want to come out with just a piece here, a piece there. I want to come out with collections. And I feel as though it was dope for my learning and understanding about how to put all this stuff together. But as far as building brand awareness and actually building an audience behind it and support behind it, completely wrong. But it's okay. But I learned from it. But yeah, if I was to start that side of it over, completely different. And what really proved that is the conversation that you started. When I was talking to you about the frustrations that I had, and it was just those 3 words, those 3 little words that changed everything. The 3 little words that are changing what we're getting to today, but we're gonna get to that later. And the 3 words, back to basics. Because we had a conversation about you never had a stage where you just did brand awareness. You just went ham.
Like you were coming. I remember that because you were like, yo, like you dropped a collection and it's just like it's not moving. It's we're getting sales here and there, but it's not really having an impact. And I was like, well, the one thing that I at that point had learned after kind of being a creative director for a bunch of brands locally was a brand that I don't even like per se, as far as my styling, had honed in on something that was important. That's Pink Dolphin. Pink Dolphin went really hard with their logo for a long time. And they just did color flips until you knew exactly what that logo was, exactly who was behind, exactly what it meant, all of that. And it somehow translated to big impact for them behind styling that I wasn't that impressed with, right? So that's where that conversation came from. I was like, yo, what about just hitting people over the head with the logo in good way, like really cool, dope, innovative ways? And it ended up being a collection you put together that was all white on white and black on black.
Basic.
And it was super simple. And all that shit sold out. And it was just, it wasn't even like I was like, I was right. I was like, we're on to something. And as soon, but what was wild, and I think is the perfect transition for the conversation, is that campaign was the culmination of your skill set.
Indeed.
Right? So your video work had come in, your photo work had come in, your branding work had come in, your know-how and production had come in for all of the pieces, everything you would need. All of those things coalesced around that drop. And what happened was, from what I saw outside looking in, a lot of people were coming to you for not only merch, but for work.
Yep.
They wanted to understand how you presented your brand and where the vision came from and how you were able to translate the words that come out of your mouth with the things that don't speak. So let's talk about that a little bit. Like, what was that era like for you, where your clothes are moving at a higher pace than they ever have, but you're also being pulled away from doing fashion?
That was the year that we realized that fashion wasn't our true passion. That was a pivotal year that I'm coming back from school with an eclectic background and a lot of production work with music videos, printing, whatever. Claude was getting into his camera work very deeply. So it was like, we kind of sitting there, especially coming after this Gain and Maintain, like you touched on. We probably had the same amount of people that was asking us more about who did the media work than people that wanted the clothing. And we were sitting back looking at that, being honest with ourselves. I'm like, we had more fun doing these shoots for the past, like, cause we did it, 2-3 months of shooting on that for that one collection. Cause we was like, again, let's slow down a little bit. really plan this thing out, get a couple different looks. So we did like some street style, we did some regular in the studio, we did like a little eye candy sexual model shoot, covered our bases. Had a great time doing it. Didn't pay a dime to get it done. All bartered. And it's like, that's what kind of awakened us. Is like, well, why don't we take all these different skill sets that we have in-house that we've had to do for ourselves and offer it to other people? Because it's a lot easier to sell people their own dream than to sell them ours. That's the direct thought that we had. I don't know agencies exist. None of that. I don't know if any of that exists. It was that simple of an idea. Why don't we take the things that we do for us and just do it for other people? Because they don't know how, and we could definitely help. So 2016 kind of just started in that direction. Let's try it out. And the first one was Sierra, IC Style. We met her through Ray's sister, Tiffany. Shout out. So she was throwing events in the city, getting female entrepreneurs to just link up and work together. That connects directly with what our culture is. So we were starting out with just kind of helping her with doing like event videography. We're doing, and then helping her do like promotional videos for her events. And then it built up to, we built the website for her. So it's like, that's kind of what got us started. But we were charging her pennies. It's like, no one in the group is really getting paid. Now when I look back at it now, we put in a lot of time for little budget. So then 2017, it got more into, okay, let's dig a little deeper. Let's try to kind of go into some more avenues. So that turned into, we were doing a lot of work with musicians. I was doing a lot of the performance recaps. We would go to their shows, capture all the footage, and put together like a tight 2-minute recap that goes under their story. One I did, that was probably my favorite, was for Masani. I would argue that was a good low budget music video that we pulled off, just with a little day of shooting with him at the event and then him at his studio practicing beforehand. So we were kind of just really in the streets, like just working with these artists a lot. But again, a lot of time that we're taking to produce that 2-minute video. Like, granted, it's not a lot of editing, but I'm at your show for 5 hours. That's not adding up to the $200 I charge you for the video.
Plus you was at the studio.
Right. I was with this man for a good amount of time.
Y'all are friends now.
So that's where it was kind of like, this ain't really adding up. And then also in that year, Mills got on me. The executive assistant was like, yo, you need to find an editor. Because it's like, we be going ham for a week. We got 4 or 5 different projects in the pipeline that you disappeared for 2 weeks because you got to edit on it, all of it yourself. I'm like, nah, this ain't going to work. So that's when I was like, all right, we got to expand out a little bit. So, but when it comes to the editing, I'm like, I don't know. That's one of the things where them leaders can't relinquish that control. But it's like, yo, if I can't let go, I'm not going to grow. Well, we talked about growth. So I started on Fiverr. I was like, let me go out. Because like, I don't know any local people. Plus, I ain't trying to pay them what them local people probably going to want. So
they're prima donnas.
Yeah. So through trial and error, I built up a cool little third-party system on Fiverr. And that was a lot of 2018 was learning for myself how to delegate. How to go from me making and producing 80 to 90% of the work myself, so where I can touch less of it, so I can look to the future. Because I'm too much, like, I'm working for my own company. Point blank. I'm not running it, I'm working for it. So that's what needed the shift that needed to happen. And so from that, now I'm able to, as soon as someone hits me up like, oh yeah, look, I'm ready to do a logo, or oh, I need this like video project edited, it's automatic like, hey, we got another one, you ready? Instead of, oh, let me try to catch my schedule, or let me see. Nah, they ready. And it's wild because it's another big thing I learned 2017, 2018. I used to think that in order to be a good leader, you had to be an asshole. I really used to believe that. I'm gonna be honest. Because when you look at movies, when you look at a lot of the great entrepreneurs in history, they were dickheads. A lot of people romanticize Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs was an asshole. Treated his workers like shit. There's a lot of that we see just in our culture and the other people that I work with. And it's like, I don't know, it was always something in the back of my mind because I'm not naturally like that. And it was like, am I missing something that, I don't know, that I don't call out people or belittle them that is going to hinder me from reaching a certain level of success? And it was at RMF, we had a lady come in who talked about leadership, and she went into leadership styles. And I asked her that question. She was like, no, you just have to adapt your system to your style. And I was like, I'm already doing that unconsciously with the way that, one, I'm able to have a team of 18 people and ain't nobody on payroll. But you talk to any of my team, they will tell you that they're getting something out of it because I make sure that they're getting value out of it. And I also am empathetic to the fact that you're not being paid to be here. You're going to have to go somewhere else to get your bread. So it's like, if they can't do something in the moment, all I ask for is communication and don't fuck up the money. That's it. Let me know what's going on. And if you say you're going to do something, handle it. That's it. Mm-hmm. I'm easy. But that's why some people here, some people not, because they just couldn't follow that.
What are your thoughts on the phrase, jack of all trades, master of none?
I agree with it to a point. Because while I am very eclectic in a lot of areas, and I think this is also one of the issues I had with myself until this year, I feel like you got to pick something to be known for at the end of the day. You can be good at a lot of shit, but until you truly pick that thing like, yo, that's my lane, it's hard. You can be very good at a lot, but I feel as though there's only so much growth that you can get to unless you dial down on something. Now, not to say that you can dial down on something, grow it, and then add something else. That's very possible. But I feel like one of my biggest issues is just trying to do too much at once. Because when that focus is too spread out, you can't put the focus that you need into the one thing to really grow it where it needs to go. So it's like, that's what the tail end of that 2018, 2019 is like, okay, yeah, we're doing a lot, but it's real noisy. Let's slow it down a little bit. Let's pump the brakes. Let's pick only bigger projects. Let's start saying no a lot more. Let me not keep trying to hold on to certain people in the team. You know? That's one of the things as a leader. Yeah. It's like, that's probably one of the biggest things also I learned from Gary Vee. Firing is just more important than hiring. Hire quick, fire even quicker.
So we're mid-2019. What is the mastery level of what UxU is trying to do now? What's that mastery level? What's that future look like?
Hyper-focusing and then grow from there.
On what? Because you told me that this has been a fashion brand, a photography brand, a videography brand, a branding brand, a logo brand. It's a lot of things that UxU is capable of doing. But what does UxU want to be known for doing now that it's not a fashion brand?
For sure. The main thing I wanted to do, I didn't want to change. I wanted to focus in. Because I feel like there's a difference. There's a difference between pivoting and focusing in. So you asked me before, what is our why? And I said, helping creatives monetize their passions. I try to do that in-house and with the people that I work with. All the clients that I brought on, that's a lot of the reasons why them prices were the way that they were, because I just really fuck with what they were doing and I wanted to help. But we're at a point now where we gotta get out these 9-to-5s. And through a lot of conversations, coaching, we boiled it down to 3 audiences of what that is. And we said music, fashion, and venues. What our history was, the people who are at an executive level inside the agency right now and the connection that we have, it just made sense. From there, we focused in even more. we was like, music just made sense. We had a big history within it. That was one industry that I saw the company kind of gravitating towards, but out of a place of fear of wanting to pick any niche, I was like, I don't want to do that. Let's back off of that. Instead of just doubling down because I saw patterns. But now we're seeing that that's our wheelhouse. Apart from that, we saw that these artists are missing a huge caveat that could allow them to monetize their own passions, allow them to build a platform for themselves and not rely on agencies, not rely on fucking managers, not rely on labels, and that is owning their audience. It's what we realize that a lot of these artists are not doing. And it boils down to their website. Because we were like, all right, how you said it, what's our gateway drug? Because we're coming at it with, we're bringing that, because now we're at a point where we have, not only do we have a full team of creatives, we got a production team that can handle whatever. Like, cool, we got that set. Now, we need people on the logistics side. We need the business, we need the sales, people who just have that mindset rather than making shit look pretty and how to produce it. So now that we brought some of those people in and they're asking us certain questions, we're waking up like, a lot of those holes are being uncovered real quick. So that's what's like, apart from that, combined with also, I'm seeing that while my salespeople, you have a deep fascination and love of sales, I can tell you're overwhelmed because you're just getting hip to digital marketing.
You're trying to sell so much shit.
It's too much. So I'm like, why don't we do the same thing we did back in 2016 and take it back to basics? Refine it down. Don't change. Don't pivot. Focus in. Pick a particular audience with a particular problem. And we come up with a solution, build an offer around that, build structure around that offer. And then once we have that structure, we can just plop in whatever offer that we want because we know how to build it now. But until we strip away all the noise, all the excess bullshit, all the different ideas that we always be having, because we're very creative, we're dope. We have a lot of dope ideas that can grow into a lot. Sometimes we just got to put that, we got to pencil it, we got to pin that.
Yeah.
Let's focus on the one offer. Let's build the one offer. Let's structure the one offer. Let's get paid off the one offer so we can grow everything.
And the one offer is
building websites for music artists that allow them to start owning their audience.
What does owning your audience mean?
Owning their audience means that essentially they're building the email list for themselves. And while a lot of people may think that, oh, well, the email list just allows me to email a lot of people, it goes a lot deeper than that. Because at the end of the day, it's data. So a lot of people may be saying, I don't need a website, I don't need an email list, I'm building everything through social media. What happens if social media closes tomorrow? What happens if it gets shut down? You don't control that. Those servers can blow up tonight.
Vine dead.
Vine's dead.
Snapchat dead.
Snapchat is pretty much dead. So if you build all your followers on this one platform and it goes on tonight, how do you communicate with your audience then? So that's the issue that we are seeing. So apart from that, with that email list, no matter what social media your audience may move to or pivot to or leave, you always have control over them. You always are able to contact them. Because again, with that email list, that's that data. It's not just, I can email you. Now I can take that data and go to Facebook ads, plop it in there. Not only can I contact directly to my audience, I can tell Facebook, hey, Facebook, analyze my audience right now, see what characteristics tie them together, and then go out and find me more people with those same characteristics so that I can grow my audience. It's not about just having direct contact to those people. It's about having that data so you can exponentially grow your audience and create opportunity for themselves to do whatever. But for now, we start with music. We start with their website. And then from there, we help them build a platform where they can not only start owning their audience, but create opportunities after they have that data for themselves on their own platform that they own too.
I had a conversation with an artist recently, a good friend of mine as well. And what he said was, he said, man, I checked my DistroKid, and for those who aren't aware, DistroKid is kind of how you manage all of your streams and the money from all of the platforms that you can stream music on and YouTube and all of that. And he said it was what would be considered a substantial amount of money that had accumulated in there for him, right? And that number changes for anybody, right? But the following statement is what let me know that where you're headed is right. He goes, I had X number of dollars in there, and I just want to know who's listening to my shit. And I literally said to him, I said, we should grab drinks, because I think I can answer that question. And that comes from probably 2.5, 3 years of kind of turning shit down and really being specific and stepping forward a little bit and stepping back to get to a point where you're able to understand, like, this is where I can truly have impact. And where we can have impact today may not be where we can have impact tomorrow, right? But it doesn't mean that we will lose any of that impact value.
Indeed.
So it was an interesting conversation, to say the least. You and I have sat and just Googled artists we like and tried to find their .com and found a huge discrepancy in the ability to find their .com. And
if we do find
a digital storefront is the cheapest storefront you can own. So I think, UxU as an agency, and not a brand, but a brand that is an agency,
indeed,
is positioned in a very unique space right now. And I'm excited to see what the future holds as far as what these thoughts could lead to. Because again, I don't know that in the next 5 years when we do this again, we'll be talking about this specifically. But I know there will be growth.
I'm going to put out some shit.
And I know there will be lessons learned.
This is what we're going to be talking about 5 to 10 years from now. Number one, we're going to be sitting in California.
Okay.
Big facts.
Let's tap to that.
The whole crew in this
motherfucker, one season
in California.
It'll be one season. Spring.
Once we're comfortable. But ultimately, we're going to crack a business model that's going to allow us to work from anywhere.
100%.
100%. We're going to be in a place where those who want to be at the shows every night, up close and personal with these artists shooting, can. Those who just want to be on the logistical side and on the marketing side, can. I see a lot of digital marketing courses. I don't know if it's going to be called UxU Academy or what it's going to be. But that's definitely, I know where I'm headed. RazaRide.com is coming back. I took it down because I was at a point where I just didn't know who Raza was in terms of what he was going to be known for and what he does. And I felt as though that, once again, that was noise right there, because it was way too much subconscious comparing to what other people are doing. Too much romanticizing my past and romanticizing what I said I should be, rather than, again, looking at the patterns of what's in front of me and what opportunities are in front of me. So it's kind of like, all right, let's just take it off the board and come back to it. Because doing just this journey of answering these questions of UxU, and if we want to be real, taking it from running it as a hobby to now we're running it as a business, or we're on the way to running it as a business. doing the same thing for myself. Taking a step back, let's learn what is important to others. What are those passions? What is my why? What am I really building towards? And how do we put a business model behind it to make it happen? So, still answering that question. I think I'm a lot closer, but I don't think I'm there yet. So, because like the last time I looked at my website, it was all about, look at this photographer. Look at this photography. Same thing I get on him about, Claude behind me. When I go to your website, I shouldn't look at the visuals by Claude. I should see Claude first. I want to get to know who is this person about, what does he do? Then we can get to your work. Because everyone in this room is way too talented to be known for one fucking thing. Everyone in this room on my squad should have their own website detailing what they do, the value that they provide, and all that. Then we get into the work that you've done. I want to see a picture and a profile first. But that's like, until I can answer that question as to what that is, just go to UxU agency and find me. Yeah. But yeah, I'm excited, bro. It's just the focus has never been as hyper as now. The clarity has never been at this level.
It's laser focus.
Now, laser focus. I feel one of the biggest issues was I was very adult creative. I know how to create whatever is in my mind. I can make it a reality. What I was missing was a fundamental understanding of sales and marketing. And I've done a lot of sitting back and homework on that. Like, it's ironic. The same year I bought that $4,000 5D Mark IV was the same year I shot more things on my iPhone. Just because of where my mindset was, and I needed to turn off the creative a little bit and learn the marketing side. Learning how to just be more efficient with my time and what I'm doing.
Yeah. I mean, I think that highlights an important aspect in our relationship, right? So I'm a creative second. I think I'm a businessman first. You're a creative first and a businessman second.
I think those lines are fucking blurred, dude.
Now, yeah. And when we really started to work together,
for sure. Nah.
So mid 2019. And I want to give you some credit first and foremost. I think you've been very instrumental in the growth of my brand, Everyday Weekend, and me kind of focusing in and honing in on what I do well. I think my conversation and interviewing thing is a strength.
What?
Bro, that I wasn't leaning into enough.
Yeah.
But by hyper focusing on, like, let's not try to be the blog that covers everything. Let's do it this way and do this well, and that'll make our name for ourselves. It's the same things that we applied to UxU. But what's interesting about it is, I think you mentioned this pre-production, we've found a way to learn something, tell the other about it, and then the other goes and learns it, which creates an immense amount of value for us in the other. So I guess my final question would be, where do you see not only UxU, but Capo and Raza going in the next 2, 3, 4 years? Because, as much as we have a team, to a certain extent, we're kind of the guiding light.
Yeah, we got something special, bro. I think one of the biggest lessons that I've learned of this year is accepting the fact that most motherfuckers don't work as fast as we do. Straight up. Yeah, it's been hard. Even with my fiance, I had to keep it in mind that we're going to go about things a different way. We're going to learn at a different pace. We're going to learn things at different times. Even with Claude, I had to accept the fact that he wants to shoot. And even though that I've been in the trenches, I've been through all that bullshit, and I could help him navigate all around that so he don't got to go through that. I had to accept the fact that he's the type of motherfucker that he needs to go through it. He's got to do it himself. It's fine. I wanted to put him more in a boss role. He wants to shoot. It's fine. Learning where people are at, and where people are. So when it comes to us, who knows, bro? Like, at the end of the day, I feel as though we're getting to a point where it's going from us just talking shit and having a lot of cool ideas to us being very hyper focused and moving forward with things. So I think that's only going to grow exponentially. That's why I really feel as though once we really solidify this first offer and we truly build the right efficient structure behind it that's going to run it, it's a wrap. Because it's only going to domino effect after that.
Yeah, no, I agree. And you know, I find it interesting that you spoke about meeting people where they are and communicating with them the way they do. And if anyone has ever seen our text communication, it looks like we're trying to test that, right? So sometimes it's all text messages, and sometimes it's photos, and sometimes it's videos, and sometimes it's voice notes, and sometimes it's links to an Evernote or a fucking Trello path that we need completed, or sometimes it's a calendar invite, sometimes it's a reminder. Like, there's just sometimes it's a fucking YouTube link. There's so many ways that we communicate with each other that's based off of how we think the other will interpret it best.
Yeah.
And I think we should end it at that point, that it is massively important to understand your audience. And that's what all of this is, right?
No matter who.
All of this journey that you've been on, to me, is understanding your audience, right?
Correct.
You've always had an audience, but you were feeding them things that they didn't necessarily want from you, per se.
Sure. Because
they would take the clothes, but they weren't exactly looking for the clothes.
I was too worried about the quality of the content instead of the content of the content.
Exactly. So now UxU is at a point where it's a respected brand, but it's more of a respected agency. And people come to UxU knowing they can give you an idea and turn that into revenue. And that's the literal growth trajectory of the UxU brand.
Indeed.
It was an idea that turned into revenue. But it always was steeped in passion.
Sure.
So with that said, bro, 10 years, I got a sip left, you got a sip left. Let's do it.
Cheers.
Cheers to UxU.